Welcome to another exciting episode of the Collect and Destroy podcast. I am your host, the Backstrip Puppets. Bundle up, throw on your snow glasses, perhaps a big floppy hat or two, and join us as we head to U.S. Outpost 31 on a mission to uncover the secrets and mysteries of John Carpenter's classic 1982 thrilling sci-fi masterpiece, The Thing. My special guest today is my good friend and yours, fellow musician, and graphic designer extraordinaire, Nate Fehlauer. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Baxter. It's been too long, man. I really appreciate you having me on again. Always amazing.
It's good to have you back. I know we're about to have a great time doing this, breaking down one of our favorite movies.
I love the movie. That's for sure.
How's 2021 been treating you?
Great so far. I mean, what are we, like 2 months in? I don't know.
Who even pays attention anymore? You know?
Yeah, I don't even know what day it is, let alone like what month. I made my way back to the wife and I made our way back to Florida, so we're down here in the sun, where it's pretty much margaritas and Jimmy Buffett like 24/7. So it's awesome.
I was gonna say that was probably why you don't know what day it is or time.
That's exactly right. Well, yeah, it's always it's margarita time.
It's tough because doing these podcasts, I have to like hire a handler to come down there and make sure we get you positioned in front of the mic.
Yeah.
And there's like swarms of people offset right now, ready to catch you if you tip over. And
that's correct. Off the bar stool here. I'm just noticing that my tan has not fully developed yet here. I'm looking a little pasty.
Yeah, you're usually a pretty tan guy.
I'm usually pretty dark, so I'm feeling a little awkward for the video viewers here.
It's all right. You can go get your spray tan with the other retired folk later this week.
We could take this shirt off if you want.
Well, we don't want to change the rating on YouTube. Keep that shirt on.
I thought maybe more viewers would show up if the shirts were off.
It didn't demo very good. The test. So what else you been up to?
I guess the biggest thing is my company, Whiskey Jones Creative. We just came out with a new CD for this project called Head Eye. And so far only the CD is out, but we're also doing a vinyl.
Nice.
Check this out. This is a long time coming here.
Yeah, that looks great. I love the hyper detail of that. That's all like illustration work, right?
Yeah, that's all vector art done in Illustrator, and over the last couple of years, off and on, not like straight through or anything, but it's been a lot of work.
And you said there's going to be a vinyl.
Yeah, there's going to be a vinyl as well. You can check out the full graphics at whiskeyjones.com. That's WISCY Jones.com, and it shows the full vinyl and the CD and everything, as well as my other work. So it's just been updated with a lot of new stuff. So check that out. Also check out headeye.org for the album info.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, the artwork is pretty trippy. What kind of music is that for?
Yeah, it's very hard to describe, actually. It's people have said it has sort of a sound of like a musical. Very much like ensemble cast of different musicians and different instruments. It's got something like 20 different instruments on there, from like flute to bassoon to like brass section, and of course piano. Makes me think of like Meatloaf or something. Yeah, it's very very epic, but yet at the same time like I said, like a musical, almost like a Broadway kind of sound.
Sure.
He's really influenced by like Zappa and that kind of stuff too. So it's a little off the wall and unexpected, you might say.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to check that out. I can't wait to get my hands on the vinyl, especially. I love what I've seen so far, the artwork, and it looks like the kind of art that you want to look up and take your time, really paying attention to it, and which is funny because that's kind of the thing that everyone always complained about when vinyl went away for a while, was like, oh, you can't look at the art, you don't have that experience. And we're seeing a resurgence, a renaissance of the vinyl production.
Yeah, definitely. It's supposed to be something. I mean, that was the intention all along. It's something you throw the vinyl on, and you sit down and you open this thing. It's the large gatefold type packaging, and there's details galore. And plus in the vinyl, we're going to have the full lyrics of everything. We're going to have info on each member of the band that came and went on different tracks, what they played and who they are. As well as the story behind Head Eye, the whole alien coming to Earth and, investigating this thing called love. And I mean, it's an insane, vast, experience that we're trying to portray here.
Feels appropriate for a podcast like today's.
Yeah. Yeah. We got aliens coming down here too.
Something else that we often talk about, whenever I can get you on the podcast, your busy schedule and all, is what we've been watching, what we've been reading. I know two things in particular I'd like to touch on that I know both of us have been watching. One was the discovery of 30 coins, Trente Monedas, on HBO Europe. It's on regular HBO, but that show rules. That's my show of the year, like for sure.
Yeah, that was an amazing surprise. Yeah. Just all across the board, like characters to storyline to effects. I mean, just bizarre creatures. I mean, it has a lot to do with what we're talking about today as far as just the imagination behind the creatures in that show.
Yeah. Well, and I felt like by the third episode, I felt like that was a whole season. Like the pace was a very fast pace, but it was not short on writing, like the development and the conceptual creativity that went into that show. For those of you who haven't checked it out, if you're into possession stuff and monsters and I don't know, like badass priests with guns and stuff.
Beautiful Spanish women. I mean, yeah, it's got everything.
It takes place in Spain. It's subtitled. Very, very good show. And then the other one would be WandaVision, which was quite a surprise. After the first few episodes, you get one thing and then it evolves into something completely different. And I know not everyone's watched the whole season, so we don't want to give any spoilers, but that was another nice surprise coming into the new year.
Yeah, that was great. I'm not that familiar with that character, whatever Wanda, that woman, superhero. I don't even know anything about it.
Thanks for your eloquent description of her.
The female superhero known as Wanda. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, what I really enjoy is that the whole season is almost like a movie, but you would never be able to get all that information into a 2-hour movie. And taking, like you said, a smaller character from the Marvel Universe, characters, Wanda and Vision, they've played major roles in Marvel. I'm not playing that down, but overall, it's not like Captain America or Spider-Man or Iron Man. They get the spotlight. So to take a side series and be able to give them all of those episodes.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. Each episode, it starts out like, I'm not going to ruin it or anything, but like it's a little bit different, sort of take on a different decade kind of feel, like old school TV stuff. It was a lot of fun and kind of humorous. So it was very enjoyable, even though I didn't really know the background of the characters. I mean,
yeah, and I like presenting something for non-super nerds. Like I would consider myself a pretty big nerd. So a lot of these things I might know about. I was talking to a coworker, and we were saying how there's so many Easter eggs. After each episode, you can go online, you can learn about, there's all these hidden things in the show. In a movie, you might just forget about the stuff because you get done with the movie, you have all these questions, and that's it. But it kind of sucks people in because you learn a lot throughout a whole season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recommend it. Both great shows for sure.
So let's get things started. We're here to talk about John Carpenter's 1982 masterpiece, The Thing. It was released June 25th, 1982. It's an American science fiction horror film directed by John Carpenter and written by Bill Lancaster. The film begins at a U.S. research station in Antarctica, early winter 1982. The base is suddenly buzzed by a helicopter from a nearby Norwegian research station. They are trying to kill a dog that has escaped from their base. And at this point, we have no idea what's going on. Why are they hunting this dog? After the destruction of the Norwegian chopper, the members of the U.S. team fly to the Norwegian base, only to discover them all dead or missing, but do find the remains of a strange creature the Norwegians burned. The Americans take it to their base and deduce that it is an alien life form. After a while, it is apparent that the alien can take over and assimilate into other life forms, including humans, and can spread like a virus. That means that anyone at the base could be inhabited by the thing, and tensions simply escalate from there. So, with all that being said, Nate, when did you first see the thing? And then what are your earliest memories? Like what stuck out to you?
Yeah, like a lot of these 80s movies that we are tending to talk about here, I was just a little kid, so I don't really recall like exactly, seeing this thing. I'm pretty sure myself and my friends, none of us probably saw this in theater, because we were like 9 or 10 years old at the time. And even my like friends that were a little bit older, I think we probably saw it on, like a VHS kind of deal, maybe even like Laserdisc, one of those old school things. You go down and rent it and try to hide from your parents and watch it. But one of the first things I remember about it was my neighbor. He was a couple of years older, maybe 3 or 4 years older, and he was kind of a big influence on me with like, he was an artist and he was a guitar player. So he kind of exposed me to a lot of like big kid kind of stuff that was going on. And he was a good artist, like I said. So I remember him drawing some of these creatures and actually showing me like pencil drawings of, like the spider head and some of the other things, maybe the jaws and the chest, that scene. It's these real gory drawings. As a kid, you're just like, wow, that's like amazing. Like, where did you see that? And so he kind of told me about the movie. I was just talking with some of my other childhood friends, like, and they're not even sure that they ever saw this movie. So I'm pretty sure I didn't watch it with them. So it must have been with these older kids. I must have gone to their house one time when they had it on or something. And those are the things I remember, are those real gory moments where as a kid, you're just especially like, I'm not supposed to be seeing this. Like, this is wild stuff,
Yeah, I think that it's pretty similar for me. Like, I definitely didn't see this in the theater. I was born in 1982.
So you could be actually, be a thing.
Yeah, I've been called the thing. I didn't grow up in a horror household, though. Like, we didn't watch horror movies. I remember seeing covers of them at the video store. But the big thing about this movie was that it didn't do great at the box office, but it grew a huge fan base through when video became a big thing. Everybody's renting this movie, videos, and then later it's on cable, playing on cable late night, all this stuff. So for me, I probably first saw it on regular TV, not even knowing what I was getting into. And maybe this is weird, but I mean, maybe not, because Temple of Doom is a child's movie. But I wasn't scared by this movie. Like, nothing was really scary to me. It was almost like in that zone where I was comfortable. I was at the comfortable edge of scariness. So it's not like a Freddy Krueger or Hellraiser or something. It's more just like super suspenseful and exciting. The isolation and the setting of the movie, I think, is so unique. Like, there's not a lot of movies that take place in snow. So all of that, it just instantly, I was like, this is my type of movie. I love this movie. It just kind of has stood the test of time. Like, I can still put this on at any time. And anytime it's on cable, I end up watching it when it's on, because classic lines, classic acting, the music holds up.
Yeah, I think you're right as far as like the setting and sort of the main plot, that, it's a horror movie, but it's not like a slasher movie,
Yeah.
Not like a Halloween or Friday the 13th, some of these other like 80s horror movies. You know, you
Now,
said Hellraiser, even.
yeah, and you're not wrong about like the grossness of the like everything slimy and like
Yeah.
uh there's the elements of actually I think about that it was in 30 coins actually that we were just talking about. But like when they show these demons and stuff, there's like a crustacean aspect to it or like insect like.
Hmm.
Um, and that just seems so authentic to me. Instead of it being like, here's a demon with all these horns, like there's this more like biblical proportions kind of feeling when you see that. And you see the same thing with this creature with the crab skeleton, spider head, and all that, all the little, I don't know what you call
Appendages.
them, tendrils.
Tendrils, yeah. Yeah, and that was one of John Carpenter's things that he wanted was a non-human humanoid, alien.
Yes. Yeah.
Up until this time, I don't think you really saw that anywhere. I mean, even the alien in Alien, you could tell he was a man with just a large head,
Yep. Yep. So let's talk about the origins of this film. Um, so I believe, in preparation for this, you may have purchased the novella, which everything we're about to talk about is basically based on um, a book called Who Goes There, which is a science fiction horror novella written by John W. Campbell Jr. And at the time, it was written under the pen name Don A. Stewart and first published in the 1938 Astounding Science Fiction. So there is a bound version of this
Yeah.
book, but
Yeah, yeah.
you want to talk a little bit about the novella since you actually purchased it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say briefly, I mean, it's a short book. It's like 100 pages. But it's amazing in that, it was written that early time period in the 30s, so kind of between the wars, I guess you could say. And it's just got an amazing sense of that, the whole theme of the book and the movies after. I mean, the themes of like dread and like isolation and trust. I mean, it's like purely dread and despair for these guys. I definitely recommend the book. It's very dark and but very short at the same time. It just kind of gets to the gist of the story. And we'll kind of talk a little bit more about it later. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a really good book. Very short,
Yeah,
easy read.
you find like the best writing is stuff that's timeless as well. So oftentimes they try to make movies of these kind of books from the 20s and 30s, turn of the century, and they're just not able to necessarily pull them off to the level that your imagination can create when you read the book. An example of that is there was a 1951 film called The Thing from Another World. This movie is black and white, solid movie. We'll probably dig into it a little bit later in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did find interesting about this movie was that it's like a little Easter egg in John Carpenter's Halloween. Laurie's babysitting and it's playing on the TV. It's like the midnight horror showing movie. And I always remember seeing that in there, but not ever having seen the movie until preparation for this podcast.
Oh, that's cool then. Yeah, that must have been funny when you saw it then to recognize the scene.
Yeah, well, and I always recognize the logo because the logo from the 1951 film is basically the same one in the 1982 film.
Yep.
They did a good job. It's a cool logo.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those all-time great logos. So then in 1972, there was another stab at adapting the novella, which was a movie called The Horror Express. Bunch of famous actors in this one. Christopher Lee, who's Count Dracula, Francisco Scaramanga from 007, James Bond, Count Dooku, most recently from Star Wars, and Saruman, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
As well as Peter
amazing.
Cushing, Hammer horror legend, Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars. And then there's a guest appearance by another James Bond actor, Telly Savalas, who played Blofeld. this was a good flick. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about this. But those were two attempts to adapt that novella prior to the 1982 film. The producers, David Foster and Lawrence Terman, they suggested Universal Pictures to adapt the novella, but they wanted to develop one that was a little bit closer to the source material. So John Carpenter was first approached about the project in 1976 by co-producer and friend Stuart Cohen. But at that point, I believe Carpenter, he was kind of just like an indie guy, right?
Yeah, I believe he had done a couple of indie films. I mean, obviously he did Halloween was before this, and a couple other, I guess you could say maybe smaller films like The Fog. I've never seen that one, but I should check it out.
Good. Yeah, it's good. There's a connection actually to The Fog with Robert Bottin, the guy who does the special effects. That's kind of how they connected.
And of course, he had done two films with Kurt Russell, Escape from New York, and a couple years before that, the Elvis TV movie.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I heard that Elvis made for TV movie was the first bullet camera job, where like the thing stays in one place, but they go around him.
Really?
Yeah, that was
Elvis
like
movie.
Early version of that technology. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got to check that out.
But Carpenter wasn't the first choice for directing the thing. They had first approached Tobe Hooper, who everyone knows from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Seems like Tobe Hooper got a lot of opportunities coming off of that movie.
Yep. Yeah, but his ideas, he didn't want to adapt straight from the book. He had some other kind of out there ideas away from the main story in the book. He wanted to do a little more of they kind of described it as like a, what is it? Oh shit. Where it was kind of like just a man sort of like chasing an alien. I, for some reason, can't remember the name of the book. But yeah, it's a little different idea. So they kind of dumped him pretty quick and went over to John Carpenter at that point.
Yeah, and Carpenter had just come off of doing Halloween. And so even though before that he had only done those two movies, he has this success with Halloween, and then Alien came out, Ridley Scott's Alien. So now there's this hunger for these types of movies. It's like, oh, there's actually an audience for this. So they bring in John Carpenter to get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the cast a little bit. This is just one of those movies where there's a lot of roles. I mean, a handful of roles, like 12 roles in specific. It's one of those movies, though, where it's such a classic movie that you can't imagine anyone else playing these roles, even though there were some other actors projected for them. Our main protagonist is R.J. McMurray, who's played by Kurt Russell. My personal favorite role that Kurt Russell has done. He's a well-trained and dedicated American helicopter pilot at the U.S. outpost in Antarctica. Just a immature sense of humor. Maybe he drinks a little bit too much, but he's just, a level-headed and intelligent man. Nick Nolte had actually turned down this role as well as Jeff Bridges. And when Bill Lancaster was writing the role, he had Harrison Ford and Clint Eastwood in mind for the lead role, which I could definitely see either of those guys in that role as well. But I think ultimately we win with the Kurt Russell with the great long hair and the beard and the, his whole getup, his big hat and his snow glasses. It's just so classic.
Yeah, amazing. Yep. And of course, the other kind of big actor on this, Wilford Brimley as Dr. Blair. He's the senior biologist at Outpost 31. Extremely smart, intelligent, super excited, of course, to find this alien organism and do his autopsies. You can just imagine like finding a new life form, how amazing that would be for someone's career. And he just, he gets right in there. He's got that, look at the famous scowl, and he's just very, very serious kind of character. Not really too lighthearted or humorous, just right to the point.
I think one of my favorite lines he has is after he's been like locked up and he's like, "I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'm good." I don't remember exactly his line, but he's just like, and at that point, he's probably already assimilated, right?
Right. Yeah, we're not really sure, but yeah, at some point when he's locked up, he does get assimilated. Yeah.
He's got the noose hanging right there. Like when you
He's
walk
got some
in.
kind of strange noose hanging down. We don't know why. I guess it's probably because it's supposed to be like if he thought he was going to get assimilated, maybe he would just kill himself. I don't know. It's not really explained.
We've got TK Carter as Knowles. He's the youngest member and the cook at the outpost. Pleasant, humorous guy, wears the signature headband. What always stands out is the opening scenes. He's rolling around on roller skates throughout the outpost.
Yep. Loves his boombox and loud music.
Fun guy.
Oh, then we have David Clennon as Palmer. He's kind of the laid-back resident stoner. He's just kind of chilling most of the time and in his jean jacket. He's pretty pleasant and humorous. He's got the signature headband. Oh, no, that was Knowles as a headband. Well, he has the signature headphones there.
He has the signature joint.
Yeah, he's always smoking joints. He has a pretty cool reference to the book Chariots of the Gods when they find out that it's an alien life form. That's a book written in the late 60s by a German author, Erich von Däniken. And it's all about like the theory that aliens came down and influenced like early cultures and brought down religion and like various technologies.
Sure, yeah.
So it's almost like he's kind of a smart, well-read guy, but he's also kind of a stoner. He's kind of into those kind of conspiracies, maybe.
We know a lot of guys like that.
Yep.
A character that works really well with Palmer is Childs, played by the legendary Keith David. Resident badass, short-tempered mechanic. He and Palmer are both the mechanics. They have good chemistry together. They're hanging out, watching pre-taped game shows and such. For this role, Jeffrey Holder, Carl Weathers, and Bernie Casey were all considered for the role. They even talked about Isaac Hayes possibly being in that role. He was in Escape from New York. And the front runner was Ernie Hudson, who ends up in Ghostbusters. But I think ultimately Keith David, perfect for the role. And he's a very timeless character. Like, I feel like this character could be in a movie today and he could have the same attitude, the same clothing, the same way he talks about things. It's just a very, I guess timeless is the way to put it. And the only other side note I would say is he played Frank Armitage in They Live, which is another awesome John Carpenter film alongside the great Rowdy Roddy Piper.
All right. Richard Dysart as Dr. Copper. He is the physician at the outpost. And as you can see in a few scenes, he has this amazing nose ring, which is like way ahead of its time. I don't think you saw a lot of people back in the 80s really with the nose ring. I don't know.
Especially not at his age.
Yeah. It's just, you're watching this movie and all of a sudden randomly you look at this guy's nose and you're like, what is shining on his nose?
I had to text Nate when I was watching this because all of my years of watching this, probably from watching it in standard def, you don't pick up on those details, but I'm like, wait, did I just see a nose ring? Like I couldn't believe it. It was memorable, right?
Yeah. You had texted me when you saw that and I was like, I can't believe you just texted me because I just noticed that myself and I was like, that cannot be.
We got a listener little comment here. The book that you were talking about, Nate, what was that book again?
Chariots of the Gods.
Yeah, that was the basis of the TV show Ancient Aliens.
That's good to know. Yeah, I love that show.
I love aliens.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, Charles Hallahan. He plays Vance Norris. Norris is, I would say, a very unnotable personality until he's a very notable personality. Like, he's always kind of trying to stay out of the way when they're fighting over who's going to be in charge. He even says, "No, I don't want to be in charge." But things take a little bit of a turn for our friend Norris.
I guess there's a lot of theories that he might be the first one that got infected or assimilated. There's kind of some clues. He might be that shadowy form when the dog first walks in.
Yeah, and they say that, he may have known already when he was, turning down the power and stuff like that, trying to be unnoticed.
He didn't want to take over the leadership role. He kind of had a hint that something was wrong, something going on there.
And what's notable is that when the thing assimilates, it takes on all attributes of the person, the human. So Norris already had a bad heart. So now the thing is assimilated and is doing all this very taxing work as they're trying to track down the thing. And essentially it seems like has a heart attack, which is very realistic because that body wasn't built to do that kind of work.
Yep.
This guy's a geologist. He doesn't look like the image of health or anything like that.
No, this guy, that guy looks very average at best, right? And his big bulky sweater. Then we got Peter Maloney as George Bennings, and he is the meteorologist at the station. He is the one that the dog runs up to at the very beginning and jumps up and tries to lick his face and perhaps, get some saliva or something, inside. Yeah. And then he's also the one that takes the flesh wound from the Norwegian officer to the leg. Yep. And then he gets the little shot of J and B, kind of help him through it.
Yep.
What else about him? He's kind of the one they first show in mid assimilation, and then he gets burned, and he's got all the fingers and the howling going on, where you can see in this picture here with that crazy face.
I wrote down animalistic wail. Like that's like that sound is just eerie. Richard Mazer plays Clark, who's our dog handler stationed at the American Outpost. And what can I say about Clark here other than he looks like the dog handler? Like, if you line those guys up and you're like, which guy's the dog handler? It's that guy.
All right. We got Donald Moffat as MT Gary, the commander of the encampment there at Outpost 31. He carries around a gun on his hip. He's got a .357 Magnum revolver, and he's pretty quick to use it, as we saw in the opening scene there.
Yeah.
And he's busting out the glass out of the window. Like, I was just like, what is he doing? You're letting out the heat. Come on, what's up? So pretty good leader, very serious, stereotypical military man.
Yeah, he's got that look.
And he's kind of one of the ones that is very shocked when Bennings starts to change, because those guys have been friends for like over 10 years.
Yeah, you can see in that moment how this affects them beyond just being scary. Like, it's you're in denial because this is your friend. Like, that looks like your friend, smells like your friend, talks like your friend.
Yep. Yeah, completely impossible to tell who's who.
Joel Paulus plays Fuchs. Fuchs was an assistant biologist stationed at U.S. Outpost 31. He's like super smart, very observant. His death is kind of interesting because it appears that he lit himself on fire, which means he probably began to be assimilated, decided to put an end to it himself. It's all very disturbing.
Very mysterious death. Yeah. Just find a pile of bones that's burnt, basically. Yeah, then we got Thomas Waits as Windows, and he is the outpost's radio operator. His name comes from as a nickname for him always wearing his shades like pretty much everywhere. He is shown as a cowardly individual, pretty much like cowering and running away from a lot of things throughout the movie. It has a pretty awesome death at the end where he gets lifted off the floor by his head.
Brutal.
Yeah, he's just kind of got a short fuse, and he seems a little bit lazy, like he has to be woken up like at his station, I think once or twice. And yeah, basically, yeah, when Palmer changes, he takes him along with him.
So that's our cast. That's our core cast. Let's get a little bit into the filming. Filming lasted roughly 12 weeks, beginning in August of 81. And it took place at refrigerated sets in LA, as well as on site in Juneau, Alaska and Stewart, British Columbia. But before they even got to any filming, John Carpenter had the studio pay them for 2 weeks pay to just hang out together, run through lines. He kind of wanted an organic, the team to kind of figure out who are my friends, and build real relationships, which I feel like really do come across on the screen. I think you had commented too that it was an all male cast.
Yeah, yeah, it's all guys. There was supposed to be a woman. I don't know what her role would be, but I believe it was like she got pregnant, so she couldn't be in the movie. And then the only other female we hear is what's her name? She's actually the wife of John Carpenter at the time.
Yeah,
she does the voice of the computer or the chess computer at the beginning there.
Yeah. And it's weird because I think we're so conditioned nowadays of thinking like, make sure we have a diverse cast. I mean, this cast is very diverse, but have, male and female roles. But what was interesting is John Carpenter had said so many movies at the time, there were no movies that were an all male cast. So he just thought it would be like really fun to do something. It kind of played into the whole 2 weeks of hanging out. Like he wanted to create this, just totally different tone than anything that was coming out at the time. It's almost like going to camp, winter camp.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, the source material is all men, like the main novella, it's an encampment of men. So it makes sense, in that aspect. I found the name of it's Adrienne Barbeau.
Yep.
Was the voice. And that was John Carpenter's wife at the time. She was in a lot of his movies. Yeah.
I was going to say she's famous.
Yeah. So I think she was in Swamp Thing. She was like the main chick in that. One interesting thing about the filming was they took quite a break between like the studio shots and the on location stuff in British Columbia. For a couple of reasons, I guess there was a rumored like labor strike coming up in Hollywood. So John Carpenter had a break right there to kind of look over the footage that he had so far and kind of make some choices. And he kind of felt like the pacing was a little slow and there was a little bit too much dialogue. So he chopped a lot of that. He also made a choice at the time to make McCready, Kurt Russell's character, more of an important role, more like a major role. It was supposed to be originally just like an ensemble cast of like 12 people, all equal, and they even all got paid like the same rate and everything. And he also decided to show a little more about the actual process of the assimilations. So he added the scene with Bennings. And also the scene where Blair goes on the computer and sees the cool Atari graphics, showing the process a little more detailed, as well as the information that he sees there that shows like 75% chance that there's going to be more people already assimilated, and also that the world could be taken over in the period of 3 years if this thing gets out. So a lot of details were added at that point that really brought across the plot points a lot better than what was originally kind of planned out.
And this is to this day is the longest John Carpenter ever worked on a movie. I think it was just over a year.
Okay.
Where usually now, especially nowadays, studios want you in and out like
Yep.
in a matter of months. Like they just want to get it done right away. And a big part about like going to British Columbia was he wanted to use authentic locations as opposed to studio sets. And
Hmm.
one cool thing about the on location sets is they were able to go there when there was no snow out on these glaciers and build their sets, and then they got snowed in. So then all the set got covered in snow and it looked 100% authentic.
Yep. Yeah, it was built up this old mining road that went. It was like an hour's drive. Like every day, they all drove up in this big bus. The cast and the crew, just everyone just got in and just went. No matter if you're shooting a scene or not, like you just go and you sit around if you're not shooting, you know. And so I think
Yeah.
that camaraderie with the crew and the cast like really shows too. Like they kind of really did bond in an isolated like snow encampment. Really.
Yeah, I know they almost like slid off a mountain too, like on a
Yeah.
bus getting from point A to point B. Like there's it the filming of the movie sounds like just as big of an adventure as the actual product, which
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Exactly.
just so rewarding to get that product done at the end. And um I like that Kurt Russell ended up with a bigger role. Obviously, I mean the character is killer, but like you mentioned, there was just such a uh it seemed like all the characters were equal. There wasn't a lot of differentiation of
Hmm.
why would I care more about this character than this character.
Yeah, and I mean,
Um,
he was still, he had done a lot of, he did the child acting and a couple of TV movies and things, but that was kind of a newer thing for him to have such a big role in a major movie like that.
yeah, he's like the ultra likable action star. Like today's equivalent would be like a Chris Pratt, I think, where
Sure.
he's
Yeah.
like comedic and funny and relatable. But he's also like kind of tough guy, action guy. Um, Another thing to note about this movie was that the 15 million from the $15 million budget, 1.5 million of it was spent on Rob Bottin's creature effects. So that was a mixture of chemicals, food products, rubber, and mechanical parts. So a lot of money spent on special effects, and we're gonna dedicate a whole segment of this podcast to the special effects. Um, but definitely worth the investment when it you
Yeah, I
just
mean, I
see.
think the extra budget, if you go any lower, that's how you get the cheap look, looking like puppets and like B movie material,
Yeah.
the campy effects, people in suits where you can see zippers and that sort of stuff.
So let's talk a little bit about our favorite moments of the film. There's countless things to discuss, but I think we can maybe just talk about some of the highlights. For me, just even the opening sequence to the movie, the Norwegians in the helicopter hunting the sled dog. A Norwegian accidentally blows himself up and the helicopter. The other one gets shot in the head by Gary. But there's like this sense of intrigue right off the bat where you're like, why is this helicopter going through so much effort to try to shoot? At first, I'm thinking it's a wolf, which it's like it's a part wolf, but it's really like a sled dog.
Hmm.
But going through all that effort to try to shoot a dog, and then they end up at the American outpost, and it it just instantly gets you hooked, wondering what is going on and why did this happen. And it kind of leads to the next big part of the film, which is going to check out their base.
Yeah, I was gonna say that lead scene, like just the frantic nature of their desperation, like to kill that dog, and like the guy's actually, you can translate what he's yelling. Even he's saying like, "What are you guys doing? We got to kill that dog. It's not, it's not human, or it's not. I mean, I know it's not human. It's not an actual dog, But they don't understand him, and it's all this confusion. So then they go to the Norwegian base to like really get behind the mystery of what was going on with this guy. It just made sense to go there. And they find this, what essentially is sort of symbolically a frozen sarcophagus that's open. I mean, it's just empty. It's like finding an empty coffin in Count Dracula's, castle or something. There's that mystery of
Yeah.
what was in
Yeah.
there. And so they walk outside and they find out, well, exactly what was, what came out of there. And it's this massive lump of just what looks like a melted mixed form of human and animal parts or whatever it is. They bring it back, and that's my favorite part, or not one of my favorite parts, is the uncovering of that and just the look on the men's faces as you pan across this like glistening red steaming corpse, melted, two-faced kind of thing. I just love, looking at the different reactions of the men and trying to imagine, like, if you were there, what that would be like to see something that's not of this earth,
Well, and they're so disconnected from the real world at this point. Like, if this happened in a downtown area, you go outside, there's a McDonald's, a Starbucks, there's the police station, there's like normalcy. They're surrounded by acres, hundreds of thousands of miles of ice and snow, and that's it. And some creature that they've never seen before, ever. It's really easy to put yourself in their shoes, and that's what gets so creepy. Speaking of creepy, another one of my favorite parts is the whole kennel metamorphosis scene. So that sled dog eventually gets put in with the other dogs. And this is when you first start seeing the metamorphosis and the assimilation occurring as this dog is turning into the thing that's attacking the other dogs. It's just so gross. Like,
it's nasty.
There's all this spraying and spaghetti-like special effects, and again, tendrils.
Yeah, wiry little things flapping around, and they're they're shooting some sort of like liquid goo as well at the other dogs.
It's almost like they were like, what is the grossest thing that we can think of? Like, what would gross you out? And then they took all those ideas and they applied them to the special effects, because it wasn't a guy in a rubber suit. It wasn't a jump scare. It was like very tangible.
Yeah. It wasn't just a dog like biting another dog or, some sort of basic like attack. It was things bursting and things flapping around and spraying and the sounds and everything.
And you feel bad for the dogs that are being attacked. Like, they're stuck. They're trapped in that cage.
Yeah, so this moment is extremely creepy. This is like one of the first times we actually see a human going kind of through what the dogs just went through there. When Bennings, he's sort of left alone in the storage room with basically what was the melted remains they found at the other camp. And you start to see that sheet like moving, and you kind of get a sense that, okay, this thing's not dead yet. And next you know, Windows comes back in the room and he sees Bennings basically like a red body, like all slimy.
Could you act
like he's
that
got
out
like spaghetti wrapped around him?
Can you act that out?
Yeah, he's kind of like this, and he's like, he's kind of leaning back, and he's all orange, and he's covered with like a jelly. And so they basically, they chase him outside, not knowing what's going on. It's kind of the first time they've experienced this. And he's you just see him from the back, and he kind of hunches down and falls in the snow. And when he turns around, it's a great like exposure to what's going on. He's got these huge lobster claw looking extended fingers. And even though his head is human, he turns and he's just got that howl and the wide open eyes, like he would be freaking out if this was happening to you. And that moan he lets out, it's just an unearthly sound.
Yeah,
it sends chills down your back. Yeah, as you and then they of course destroy him immediately after.
Haunting to the core. A favorite moment of mine is more of just like a look, which is when Kurt Russell's character Mac is coming back. He was out with Knowles. They're investigating. They went out to McReady's shack because the light was left down. Knowles comes back. He abandoned McReady. So McReady comes back, and they're like, there's no way he could have got back without, the rope. And he's covered in, his beard is frozen with all this frost. He just looks like he's just so frosty. He's got what, like dynamite?
He's got dynamite. He's got the flare. He's
threatening that if they don't let him in, if anyone messes with me, the whole camp goes. And you as a viewer, we like believe that he's not the thing.
Yeah.
But it's very understandable why his teammates would suspect that he is the thing. So there's like this little bit of a standoff where you're like, let him in, he's okay. And you're like, don't blow them up. They don't know.
Yeah, we want him to be okay. We know he's a main character, and like, what are the chances that he's actually infected or whatever? Actually an alien. So we're like, listen to him. Yeah, like you said, listen to him. He's not one of them. He's one of you guys. But yeah, it's like a one against everybody at that moment.
But this look is just one of those things that, like, as with many things in this movie, whether it's the kennel scene or it's Bennings, these are the things that get etched in your mind. So when you think of this movie, you think of like those 10 specific scenes that are like, this characterizes this film. And this shot of him with the flares and the dynamite and the frosted beard, that to me is just so iconic. And then the end of this scene, all of a sudden Norris is having a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, everyone's kind of starting to like rush at McCready at that point, and people are getting thrown around a little bit. Norris gets thrown against a shelf and he falls down and he's clutching his heart and he just like goes, he loses consciousness. So it's like a weird end to that scene. Like everyone all of a sudden is on the same page again. And they're like, okay, let's try to save him. Let's get him on the table. So yeah, Copper gets him up there and he starts doing the chest compressions, and all this. And he gets the defibrillator out, and on like the second or third jolt, all of a sudden these jaws are in the chest. It's like one of the biggest scenes from the movie that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
These massive jaws looks like a bear trap inside this guy's chest, and just clamps on Copper's arms, which just get immediately held. And then his arm, for some reason, tears off. His arm tears apart like above the blade. I'm not really sure if it was just the force of the pulling of the alien jaws or whatever, but you just see these arms extending out. And of course, Copper goes haywire and starts flailing around all over, and he's got 2 stumps bleeding everywhere. And if that wasn't enough, then all hell breaks loose. The thing opens up even more, and there's like one part of Norris that goes up and his face is just tongue sticking out and stuff gooing everywhere. And then you got the other main torso where his head pushes off his body and extends. This green goo flies everywhere. I mean, the scene it keeps going. It doesn't stop. The head falls to the floor. It sprouts out the crustacean arms, spider arms. I mean, this, it's just an amazing scene that's just, I don't know how many minutes. It must be like 15 minutes long.
This movie is just a series of I can't believe this is happening moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of summed up when who was it? Palmer is just looking down and he sees this spider head with the big spidery antenna eyes. And he's just like, what does he say? He's like, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." I mean, it's just, they can't believe like what's coming next. It's just like this guy just split into all these pieces and there's stuff everywhere and there's fire in the room. Just amazing.
What's really awesome is, we having seen this so many times, we're anticipating these scenes. So you're like, oh, it's this part. Oh, check this out. This is going to be great. But if you ever get a chance to watch this with people who have never seen the movie, it's even better because you just to watch people's appalling reaction as his chest rips open and rips the guy's arms off.
What could be more unexpected than a chest just opening up with like a huge set of jaws inside it? I mean,
that's why this is such a great creature, villain, alien, whatever, because it morphs and it evolves and it can be all these things, and you don't have to stretch your imagination to explain why it works that way.
Yeah,
it's just like your worst nightmare reincarnated. Like,
and like one thing about that is it's this movie came out just after Alien, right? I mean, that scene in Alien that everyone knows where the chest burster bursts out of that guy's chest. I mean, it's a scene very similar to that in its gore and its like lasting impression.
Yeah.
Just one of like the sci-fi horror kind of genres, like biggest scenes probably. of all
Well,
time.
and that was some big complaints about this movie were that people like Roger Ebert, how great he is. Like he was just saying how it was just like a gross out fest, and it was just like
Right.
let's show see how long you can look before you have to look away and stuff like this. And it's like I don't know. It's like I can't imagine a world where like I'm that repulsed. I mean, I know you and I have seen some really bad like
Yeah.
good movies with really gross things.
Yep.
Um which those kind of movies push the limits, but like average movies like awesome movies, like I guess nobody had done stuff this graphic before, so people didn't know how to consume it.
Hmm.
But one of my favorite scenes is the blood test. That whole sequence has just got you on the edge of your seat, like trying to figure out. The whole idea is they heat up a wire with the flamethrower, touch the little bit of blood that they cut their fingers to put in the petri dish, and the theory is that the blood, because if it is alien, out of all of the team members, it will respond, it will fight back, it'll jump. So it's just kind of like this whodunit, shortest straw moment where everyone is seeing who could possibly be the thing because they know one or more of them is definitely been assimilated at this point. Um, I really enjoy the look of relief when people are not the thing, but they look like they aren't even sure
Yeah,
themselves.
exactly.
So when it happens and they pass the test, nothing happens. There's just a little sizzle. Um, it just feels so realistic.
Yeah, what if it reacted and showed that you were one and you were like, what? You're like, I don't feel like one. I feel normal. Yeah, but the look on Palmer's face when he gets busted, he's just like, oh boy, here we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that whole
Well,
thing with
even like
Palmer.
Clark tries to jump Mac with the scalpel, and then they test his blood, and he wasn't even infected. So,
Right.
like they said, Mac, now you're a murderer, and like it was self defense. But
Yep.
it just goes to show that nobody trusted anybody at that point.
I thought that was interesting that, yeah, Clark and then also Copper, they had him laid out. They still tested him, but they were like laid out right there. And they were both human. They weren't even changed. Here they are dead.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, the Palmer scene where I mean, I don't know where his head goes like that and splits. That's amazing. And he goes flying, and that kind of almost looks like the end, which is my last favorite one I call it the big boss, but it's actually the Blair thing.
Yep.
When he comes, first he takes out, the captain and Knowles, and then you see him flying underground, tearing up the underground bunker, and he flies out, and he's this huge creature that's got elements of humans all over him, and he's got the giant claw head, the big chompers on the top, and he's got elements of like a dog bursting out of him. I mean,
Brutal.
what a way to end. I mean, I felt like they kind of downplayed that almost a little bit at the end. It could have been a much bigger scene, right? And as we know, it was kind of planned to be a little bit bigger with like the use of stop motion and some more
Yeah.
elaborate ways to kind of show this giant creature in the room, but that eventually fell short. So this was kind of edited down to just some shocking images of the big jaws and the dog coming out of him. And it was kept pretty short and sweet, I would say.
I really like the floorboards, the when
Yeah.
it's underneath the floorboards and they're like a wave of floorboards. That is incredible.
Yep. The burrowing, the fast sort of underground burrowing effect was really cool.
So let's talk a little bit about what we like to call around these parts Fehlauer fun facts.
Yes, we do.
About of the movie. The original Universal World logo was not used for this movie. There was some concern that there would be some confusion because the opening scene of the movie is an alien ship crashing into Earth. I actually think that would have been like the way to go, and I think if they did that today, that they would definitely have the universal globe turn into the actual Earth, and then they would land on it. And I
Yeah.
think they talked about that, or
Yeah, I think at some point they had the idea to show the logo and kind of then pan away and then show a spacecraft come in and then go back to it where you just saw the Earth and then show the crash. I mean, it's not unlike, I mean, look at some of our favorite movies with the Indiana Jones franchise where they actually take the logo
Yes.
and turn it into the beginning shot. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan whenever you can tie in the studio intro into the movie. Disney does that a lot. There's a lot of movies they change kind of whatever the background is to correspond to the scene that they're going to open with.
Yeah, it just seems perfect. It's
Opportunity.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's creativity.
Yeah, the next little fun fact is it opened on the same day as Blade Runner, which was
is that movie good?
I can't remember if I ever saw. No, yeah, of course, I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies. Come on, it's part of the Harrison Ford triumvirate of his early '80s movies there. But yeah, anyway, so it opened on the same day, and this one also had kind of the not so great of a reception by audiences, and it also kind of had that ambiguous ending where you're not really sure exactly what happened. Like, is Deckard a replicant or not?
Yeah,
kind of like this movie, you're not sure, like, are they assimilated or not? Are they going to be an alien?
yeah.
It kind of had the same feel in the end. But both obviously have become cult classics at this point and greatly loved by all.
Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of the benefit of being born. Well, like I was born the year these came out, but seeing them later, you can kind of see them for what they actually are instead of getting swept up in the commercial criticism or
right. Or yeah, the atmosphere at the time of like what people were looking for in movies, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And these movies lay the groundwork for what we consider to be incredibly successful properties moving forward. I mean, look at like Raised by Wolves. Like, you don't have something like that without movies like these.
Right.
Well, and that's Ridley Scott too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a direct connection, obviously, Blade Runner to Raised by Wolves.
And I was going to say, E.T. came out like just before both of these. So I think that was kind of the feel. People were looking for like more of a friendly, little alien, sort of a family kind of movie.
Yeah, their understanding of what aliens were like was a lot different than
and you had Star Wars and Close Encounters and and Star Trek, I suppose, at that time. And those were kind of more the epic adventure kind of sci-fi. Nothing was really like these kind of darker feel,
Yeah.
apocalyptic feeling movies.
At about 15 minutes into the film, we had touched on this earlier, but the dog is walking through the outpost. It pauses outside a door, and we see a shadow of a man, and we're not really sure who that man is. John Carpenter wanted this character to be kind of a mystery, and because of that, he used a stuntman to be or an extra stuntman to be this role so that we didn't know exactly who this character was supposed to be.
What is this? This is when they're doing the autopsy, John Carpenter had said that Wilford Brimley was kind of the only one that wasn't like squeamish or kind of felt weird around these huge sort of dead bodies that are all, they even use like real animal organs inside some of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, they said Wilford Brimley was the only one that was pretty much okay with it. And that's good, I guess, because he was the one that had to like dive in there with his own hands and cut it open.
I saw an interview with Kurt Russell, and he was kind of mentioning a lot of this stuff, like with the real animal parts and stuff. He said it's no different than when you go deer hunting and you got to clean a deer, and people have no problem going and picking up meat at the grocery store, but they don't want anything to do with the actual processing of the animal. And it kind of is the same thing with these special effects. Like, once you get used to it, it's really no big deal. It's no different. Yeah.
I mean, I've been around animals like getting field dressed and getting gutted, and even like animals hanging up and getting, processed, and yeah, you kind of after a few minutes, I mean, your mind just kind of sees it as, okay, it's just biology, it's just parts of the animal. Doesn't
Yeah,
really gross
exactly.
you out that much.
Exactly. And in many ways it's better than, well, it's definitely better than factory farming, corporate processing of animals.
Oh, of
There's a
course,
lot more
yeah.
care and the animals have a much better life. Keith David Childs, he wears gloves through most of the film. And I think maybe the first third of the film he's not wearing gloves, but after that he's wearing gloves because he was in a car accident. So in order to cover up the cast, he would wear gloves.
Yeah, you actually see him kind of hiding that left hand a lot. It's kind of behind his body or down at his side.
Sure.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of weapon use and flamethrowers and all sorts of things you wouldn't expect at a scientific research facility, especially since I guess apparently through some international acts of civility, you're not even allowed to have like military bases, in Antarctica. Anyway, they had flamethrowers and weapons. One thing Kurt Russell was rumored to do, or was this proven? I don't know, but he he did a prank on John Carpenter where after shooting a scene with the flamethrower, he showed up like the next day and he was all bandaged on his face and everywhere. And he basically said that he had had an accident with the flamethrower and like he was extremely wounded. Kind of a cruel prank to pull, but probably
But funny no less.
afterwards.
It's the kind of prank that shows up when you have a cast full of dudes with
Yep.
flamethrowers and guns.
Yep, just playing with toys, that shoot
it-
flames.
It adds to that whole mystique of the situation. Big X-Files fan here. I've been going through and rewatching the series from the start. I'm in the final season, which has taken me forever because I keep watching other things. It's also, the last two seasons are pretty rough. I'm talking the original run. Robert Patrick is there. He's great in the show, but it just doesn't have the same chemistry as the Mulder and Scully earlier seasons of the show, especially mid series. They're just on fire. That show, one of the greatest of all time. But in 1993, they had an episode titled Ice, and the episode borrows the premise from this movie, and the whole episode is basically an homage to the Carpenter film. The plot of that is that Mulder and Scully are sent to investigate when a team of geophysicists stationed at a remote Alaskan outpost are killed by a parasitic alien life form. So it sounds very familiar. I remember this episode vaguely. I remember it being pretty gross, but I think it's always great to pay homage to those who came before you and, kind of do things in their honor like this episode.
And of course, the big scene we just talked about previously, where our friend Dr. Copper loses his arms while he's doing a defibrillator on what's his name, Norris. The fun fact about this, the way they actually pulled it off with no pun intended, but when his arms got ripped off, they actually use a double amputee who didn't have arms, and he basically put on a mask of Dr. Copper screaming. And it's just an easy way to get around, like, how are we going to make this guy's arms disappear? I mean, all he had to do was kind of just pull back and like flail around a little bit with like these bloody stumps on and just, kind of fulfill the scene. And there was no need to do any green screen effects with like putting green gloves on the guy's arms or anything. Just like completely, like literally a practical effect.
And it's seamless. You cannot, even pausing it, you can't tell a difference. It looks legit, and that's the main. It's one of the greatest parts about this movie is the special effects.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to take a little bit of time here to talk about those special effects, and it's really considered a benchmark for special effects in film. And all the credit goes to this man here, Rob Bottin. who was only 22 years old at the time of the start of this movie. What were you doing at 22, Nate?
I was probably pretending to study in college and drinking beer and playing in bands. So, like, pretty much on par with kind of what he was doing as far as groundbreaking, material.
A real trailblazer, Nate.
Yeah, I'm pretty much well known in that field.
If you ever listen to any podcasts with Nate and myself, you will know that we love this thing called practical effects, and we hate this thing called CGI. This movie is it's all practical effects. Even when they tried to do the stop animation at the end, John Carpenter said, "No, I can tell it's stop animation. We're not going to use it."
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud that because it would have looked awesome and we would have been able to suspend our disbelief. And I love the stop animation of the 70s, Star Wars, stuff like that.
Clash of the Titans and stuff like that.
The Harryhausen stuff is so good and awesome. But there's something to be said about this film from the minute it starts till the second it ends, that it's all practical and appears realistic.
I mean, it's just amazing, like that. They set up all these scenes, like what they wanted to have happen, and then they said, "Yeah, we're going to make it happen." Or Rob Bottin did, and then he was like, "I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I have, I have all these things at my disposal, different plastics and jellies and whatever." They used like gelatin to make the fake arms, and they had like the fake blood vessels, which were like little plastic pipes in there.
I heard there were just 5-gallon buckets of KY jelly everywhere, and they just covered everything with KY jelly. And that gives you that like slimy, disgusting, liquidy everything.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was used on every scene. Just coat it in like a glossy slime. They shot that Bennings scene later on. They actually shot that up in Canada there. And so it was kind of like, what are we going to do? We don't have everything up here. So they just sent like KY jelly and like orange dye and whatever and a few tentacles, and they just like wrapped it around him. Like, done. They used the same gloves, those big claw gloves. They just threw those on Bennings. Those are the ones used on Palmer when he goes flying to the ceiling. Making Norris's head expand off the table. They just kind of like pushed it and stretched it with like this green gooey plastic that was like melting and like letting off fumes everywhere. Did you hear that story?
Yeah. So that I know that the first time that they tried to do this, they were using like gum and rubber and plastic to get it all stretchy and fall off. And it smelled horrible. It's just putting all these chemicals in the air. And then they wanted to put a little like flame track underneath the cameras because they were, torching everything in the scenes. So they wanted there to be flames in front of the camera. Well, they didn't realize that they were creating this noxious chemical reaction in the air, and everything lit on fire.
A flammable gas in the air in a contained space. What's the worst that could happen?
I just like these pioneers of special effects that you only have to do it once. It only has to work one time on film.
Yeah.
And it just sounds so fun to be part of that kind of team where you're working for 12 hours straight to get this one special effect, and you're trying all this weird stuff. You're inhaling all this weird chemicals that could kill you, but you're doing
sure most of it's not legal anymore. And
for sure. I'm sure they have much tighter restrictions on that kind of stuff.
But yeah, the story there was the air was flammable and they wanted to light the fire to put it, because there was fire in the scene. So Carpenter was like, we got to show fire because they just showed a flamethrower. So they went and they did a couple clicks on the lighter or whatever. And all of a sudden it was just like, poof. It's like when you light your gas grill and you forget to like have the top open or whatever. It's just like poof. And it like actually burned the model. They had to like reset the whole thing. Crazy. Everyone's face was black like a cartoon.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, it must just so much fun. So Rob Bottin, he got hooked up with Carpenter because when he was working on The Fog, he was like, "Hey man, I'm a huge fan. Do you have a role where like I can just like put on a mask and like be in your movie?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I do." And he like just gave him a job like right on the spot. And then the next thing you know, he's like, "I'm doing The Thing next. Do you want to do all the special effects?" Like I
Yeah,
don't
amazing.
like talk about right place, right time. I mean,
Yeah,
it was probably his hair that got him the job, but
yeah, great looking hair, very feathered. But he did have some background. He had done like The Howling. He got like, a lot of praise for doing the transformation of the werewolf in The Howling. And I kind of looked at his IMDb. He started when he was like 17 years old. He started doing effects in movies. So even though he was early 20s, he still had some years of work under his belt there. But still, amazing.
if there's anything I can recommend to anyone, young people that aren't old and grizzled like us, it's just if there's something you're passionate about, start doing it as soon as you can. There's no restriction. You don't have to have a college degree. Maybe you're going to go to college, but like start in whatever it is.
Yep.
And knock on doors and ask for jobs, ask to sweep floors. I think.
And if you want to be in movies, go to LA or New York, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was getting into graphic design, my first job, which we actually both ended up working for this gentleman, but it was at the other company that he worked at. My dad went in there and he was like, "Hey, my son's interested in graphic design. He's 17. He'll sweep your floors." And I went in there. It was just supposed to be like a shadow experience. Like I shadow for a month and then I'm out of there. And then they figured that I actually knew what I was doing on the computer. And
you were a good floor sweeper too.
I never left.
I remember the floors being pretty clean. Yeah. When you were there,
it was like 12 years later before I stopped working for that guy and, onto bigger things, but, sidetracking it, but you're passionate, pull a Botine, jump in, light things on fire.
Say you can do things and then figure out how to do them later.
Yes, exactly. And one case in this movie is he took on more than he could chew. So he brought in some backup.
That's right. He had to bring in his good friend Stan Winston, who we all know from what movies? I can't think of any, but
everything. Legend.
Everything, yeah.
Special effects legend.
So yeah, his Botine's, his list of projects that he had to do for The Thing was just so much, and he was so behind schedule. So they brought Stan Winston in to kind of help out, and he was very glad to help. On the kennel scene with all the dogs transforming, he came up with very simple but effective ways to animate these things. He actually created a puppet essentially for the dog's head on his own hand. So that's why it looks like it's articulating in a very human way, or not human, but like realistic way. I keep saying dogs are human. I guess that's what I think of dogs. I don't know.
You've watched
but it's like a very realistic, it's a very realistic movement of the neck and face and jaws of a dog, because it's done just with a simple movement of the arm, right?
Yeah.
And then he had, of course, 20 other people doing other little arm movements or whatever within puppets.
It's just so incredible to think of like somebody calling in Stan Winston to like help them out, like because he's such a big name, his school is so big and all that stuff. But it's good to have friends in high places, and
he didn't really even take credit for it, did he? He was pretty much like, "This is Rob's, gig. I'm just helping out."
Exactly. Yeah. This movie very much has a vibe of Friends. Like that's a common theme. Even Kurt Russell coming in, he was just like consulting at first. Like he was just him and John Carpenter were spitballing ideas, and he wasn't looking for a role in the movie. He had just done Escape from New York with
like the year before. Yeah.
So they were close. They were friends. They'd worked together. but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you wanna you wanna do that? You wanna be in my movie?
Yeah, he kind of just jumped in at like literally the last second, I think, before filming. He was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'd love to be in it."
Another thing with this movie is we talked a little bit about the intro, how it imitated the 1951 film. And they talked a little bit about that. You know, they etched that on like an aquarium, I think. Had some smoke in there, a plastic bag. They're burning it. Like, just I'm so
Yeah.
intrigued by the behind the scenes of how they create the elements, because when you watch that intro, it's just like this beam of light coming through this logo.
Yeah, you forget that, like, yeah, they didn't have ways to do that on the computer or whatever, particle effects, in some program.
Yeah,
But
now
yeah, it looks so amazing, like light coming through just this foggy sort of atmosphere, beaming out. And I have no idea how they did the 50s one, because it looks almost exactly the same on the 50s movie.
yeah, and I'm sure they didn't have any background on how they had accomplished that.
Yeah.
So it's cool to like retrofit a style or an effect, but still doing it without a computer, doing it by hand, like with matches touching the little
Yeah.
bag in different
You're
places.
just you're burning a garbage bag. Like, who would ever imagine that that's how that was made?
So the music in this movie is very interesting to me, because upon initial listening, I would assume that this was a John Carpenter score. John Carpenter is very well known for scoring his movies like Halloween and Escape from New York and stuff like that. But this was the first movie that John Carpenter didn't score himself. Originally, the first choice was Jerry Goldsmith to do the score, and then they landed on, I mean, undeniably one of the greatest composers, Italian composers for movies, Ennio Morricone, who's done 500 plus films in the spaghetti westerns, the Dollars trilogy.
Yeah, so yeah, they were trying to like woo him to like quickly get on board with this project. They were, I think, feeling a little desperate. They had only shot the studio stuff at the time. So when they showed him an early kind of cut of the movie, it was pretty much disjointed and just like, there was like no effects yet. It was like maybe some of the kennel scene. It was all just kind of, he basically was like, I have no idea what this is even about, but he took a chance and he said, come to Rome, come talk to me over there. So like early in like 82, after all the filming, they kind of shot over there, and there was like language barriers and stuff, and Carpenter was nervous because, like you said, this was the first one where he didn't score his own movie.
Yeah.
And so he basically got on the piano and kind of started to lay down kind of the mood of what he was thinking, and luckily they kind of formed a little bit of a bond, and Carpenter entrusted Ennio with scoring it. Basically what he did was he kind of just scored certain little sections, of some electronic music and some, symphony stuff. And then they kind of took those little pieces and put them with the final edit.
Yeah, I could listen to his scores in general, like, and I have listened to them for hours, just put them on in the background. He has a really creative way of creating these atmospheric scores.
Yeah.
And a place that like a lot of us metalheads have heard this is his song "The Ecstasy of Gold," which is from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Highly recommend checking out those films. But Metallica, that's their intro when they hit the stage every night. Like, they play that music, and now it's just kind of synonymous with Metallica.
Right.
That you don't picture their concert without them introing with that music. And
yeah, I mean, it's just so amazing. You're just waiting for like hours, or you're waiting for like an hour between, if Metallica had an opener for that. Sometimes I know a lot of theirs they don't. So yeah, just imagine that you're waiting for hours, and then all of a sudden you hear that score, blasted, and you're watching them come out on stage. It's like amazing.
Well, and like a song like "The Unforgiven" is like a direct homage to Morricone. Like, they got those sound effects, those little like spaghetti western sound effects in the song and stuff like that. what's very interesting about him doing the music for this movie, and it's also, another we laugh now, decades later, but this score for this movie was nominated for a Razzie Award for the worst score in 1982. And then in 2015, unused portions of this score were used in The Hateful Eight, the Quentin Tarantino film. And then Morricone won an Oscar for it.
Yeah. Did they just think it fit more with like a Western movie or what? I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, I loved The Hateful Eight as well, but the interesting, overlaps there. Obviously, Kurt Russell's in both movies, and then both movies take place in a barren, snow-covered setting.
Yep, an isolated group of people that don't trust each other. I mean, basically, right?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, the same thing. Everybody's got eyes on everybody else, and if you haven't seen that, it's very much a spaghetti western style Tarantino flick. I highly recommend it. It's pretty long, but I think worth it. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I like it a lot, actually.
I think that Tarantino kid's going places.
He did all right on a couple.
So let's jump into, obviously this is the Collect and Destroy podcast. Collectibles is a big part of the website that I run. So let's talk a little bit about the collectibles in regards to, and the artwork in regards to The Thing. The initial poster was designed by Drew Struzan, which we both know. He's a very famous poster artist. You want to talk a little bit about his design?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it now, it's just such an iconic design that you don't think of The Thing without thinking of this picture, which was seemingly a man with bright lights beaming out of within his hood, I guess you could say. Yeah. It almost looks like icy glass, shards shooting out of someone's head. So it's pretty ambiguous. Like, if you had never seen the movie, you might not really understand at all what's going on here. But now I just think it's like, it just encapsulates the movie like so well, because it's just, showing this like sort of energy, like this man is not what he appears to be. Right. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I think of this art, it's kind of metaphorical, and it's the way that a lot of book covers are designed, where it's like, it's telling the story without literally telling the story.
Yeah, it doesn't give anything away at all, And I know that at first when they got this poster done, I mean, Carpenter and the other producers were kind of like, well, we were trying to get away from a humanoid look for an alien here. And I think they thought this did not accomplish that. And basically Carpenter was like, well, he might as well be holding a kitchen blade or a butcher's blade in his hand. He looks like a killer coming at me.
Yeah, it definitely could be like a slasher poster. Nate, you're getting fan comments here about how good your hair looks.
Well, the ladies seem to like the hair these days,
Fantastic is the quote.
Look at these golden waves up top. Thank you, Crystal.
So as with a lot of our podcasts, we talk about the alternative movie posters, which is a really big thing nowadays, where artists are designing, not posters that would be necessarily used for the theatrical release of a movie, but like some of these, they're designed decades later, but they're all based on the concept of the film. Artists like Patrick Conan, I believe, Conan. This version actually on the screen, if you're watching the YouTube version, there's actually a blue version and a red version. The blue version's all ice and the red version's all flames. Kind of tells the story of the movie.
I love that tagline, by the way. Man is the warmest place to hide.
Oh, it's so great.
That's creepy. I don't want something hiding inside my warmth,
And it gets to it. That's the movie, man. Like that's the whole thing, is the thing assimilating into man. I know you're a big fan of Gab's
like
poster
Gab's
art, always detailed.
Check out Gabs, Gabz.
I just pulled the trigger on the Lord of the Rings triptych.
Yeah, I think it's shipping right now. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah, you'll be getting it soon.
Another really well-known artist is Matt Ferguson. I've actually got this thing screen print hanging in my office. The thing I love about this one is it looks like it's literally glowing. Like the usage of color, the way that the flames just looks like it's coming down from space, and the flames and the
Yeah, I love the sort of gradient from cool colors to that orange and red of the fire. That's just so well blended.
Justin Bartlett did an incredible, illustrative. It's just basically black and white, but detailed ink work. I'm not sure if this is a screen print or what how the style was of the print on this, but I appreciate when the artists abandon the traditional movie poster and they go with things that are more simplified.
Yeah, you get tired of seeing like the photographic movie posters with just the faces of the stars that are in the movie. It's kind of boring. I like the simple colors. A lot of these are screen prints, so they're like 2 and 3 colors. Just keep it real simple.
And taking an element out of the film that isn't normally maybe the focus of the poster art. David Muscati's poster, it's the picture of the sled dog, and which is such an integral part of this film. When you see it as a fan of the film, you know exactly why that dog is on there and what the connection is.
Well, yeah, that dog's name is Jed. And, you touched on it. He was a half wolf, half Malamute.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing with him was he wouldn't bark or growl, but when he got a little bit scared or nervous, he would just do that stare that wolves have. Go back to that poster real quick. It just really shows like that intense like stare that's just a quiet like creepiness. I think it was captured awesomely in that one.
Yeah, I like how the eyes are like glowing.
Yeah.
Almost.
That's a perfect expression for a dog, not human.
I like the posters like this one by Dave Merrill where there's no type. It's just Max. This one's cool. It's very detailed. Looks like painting of Mac's head and the reflection of his team in his snow glasses. Just beautiful. Like this is, I think we both can attest to loving great typography, but there's something to be said about the simplicity of a very bold image with no type.
Yeah, I love using that reflection in the glasses sort of gimmick or look or whatever. I've used that in a couple things.
Well, and it kind of goes with like your head eye art, the concept of on initial look, it's just Mac's head. But then when you start looking closer, you start seeing those tiny details like, oh, I see Nulls in there. I see Childs. Like you start to see the other characters and what's going on in there.
Yep. Yeah. You wonder, like, are they divided like this for a reason? Like you start making your own kind of story there.
When it comes to like action figures, there's actually not a lot of stuff out there on the market. Soda Toys in their Now Playing series did a kennel box set, which is kind of the metamorphosis scene. It's got Mac in there, 3 canines that are assimilating. Very cool, very expensive because of a limited production run. I think Mac's about 7 inches tall. The diorama base is about 12 inches. Again, Soda Toys.
I think it'd be super cool to have like all 12 of the characters like as a action figure, whatever style.
Yeah.
Or even like sculptural style.
Yeah, I like the stuff when it can be like a scene,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of action figures that are still in the boxes and stuff, but I like the diorama kind of situation.
It would be cool to have them in a diorama of the rec room from the Outpost. You know what I'm talking about? That room is so cool with the pool table and the arcade machines and the pinball and, whatever else is in there. It kind of had a cool setup. They had a little bar on one side.
Pikmin's vinyls. They did some really cool little resin guys. They look kind of like the muscle figures, if you remember those from the 80s.
Yeah, just
Um,
solid color molds.
yeah, just solid color molds, fun. You got the metamorphosizing dog, the little spider head guy. And I don't know what the blue one is. That might be like Mac
That
or
looks like
something.
a guy with a flamethrower, maybe. It's hard to
I
say.
feel like this movie is like, give him a flamethrower, give him a flamethrower.
I know, yeah.
You had sent me over the space thing figure from Dark Horse Comics. That one's awesome.
Yeah, that one's amazing. It's based on the description that's found in the original book with the three ominous red eyes and the, I don't know what you call it, sort of the tendrily fingers. It's
Yeah, it's
almost kind
much
of,
more plant-like.
yeah, I was gonna say it's very organic, tree-like almost. So that kind of ties in with the first movie there in the 50s too, because that was like a plant organism.
Yeah, this thing was sculpted by Pete Von Schally. It's about like 4.5 inches tall. Look great on a desk.
Oh,
The only like licensed figures that I could find were from McFarlane Toys, who like NECA, McFarlane always knocks it out of the park. These are a little bit older. The line came out in 2000. Um, we've got the Norse creature and spider figure here. But the details are just awesome. Like they photo really well. They look
wow,
like
yeah.
movie props. They're 7-inch scale. I know that there's a Blair monster too, or Blair thing as well.
Yeah,
Um,
those would be awesome to have with the
yeah,
right lighting too, you know.
stuff like this. I'm always like with both NECA and McFarlane. They have license. They only hold them for a certain amount of time, but I would love to have them reissue these, with the expanded deluxe packaging and all the extra parts. The packaging has come a long way actually since 2000. Like 2000, it was like put it in a clamshell and that was it.
Yeah.
And now we've got like NECA's, all their boxes have the like window treatment where you open it up and you see all the extra hands.
Oh
It'd
yeah,
be
that's
cool to have a
great.
Bennings figure that has normal hands and then he's got the long hands.
Yep. Yeah, these have no like panels for graphics really, except for the back side, if they're just like a clamshell.
Yeah. I mean, and part of that's like the eco-friendly stuff going on in the industry right now. They're really trying to reduce plastic usage in packaging. So you're seeing a lot of these figures going to more paper-based packaging.
So yeah, Mondo came out with a board game. I forget how long ago. I want to say like 3 years ago, maybe four. And I don't know much about it, other than what I've seen, like YouTube playthroughs and things like that. But
Sure.
it seems like the rules are kind of like what you would expect. I think the bigger the group, the better when you have playing it, because you can actually choose the characters from the movie. So like if you could somehow get a dozen people playing, that would be like the ultimate. Because essentially one of you starts out as an infected or assimilated, from the thing.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to like cooperatively take care of different situations around the base. Like the whole game board is essentially a map of Outpost 31. So you're trying to go to like different rooms and you take cards for different actions, and then you kind of turn them in. And if you're the thing and no one knows it, you're trying to like sabotage the missions by playing a card that ruins the mission, and you can start to lose different rooms to like fire and things. So they're all trying to escape, and you're trying to like not let them escape, basically. But the whole premise is it's kind of like no one know. It's like the movie. No one knows who's good, who's bad. So
Yeah. I think
sounds kind
that
of cool.
yeah, the plot is so adaptable to these more modern strategy-based board games. And it's even cooler when it's actually like marketed as the thing. Like a lot of the games, they don't buy the license. So then it's like Space Outpost
Yeah.
31.
Space infection in ice
And then
Outpost.
like all the characters look like the characters from the movie, but they have a slightly different name. Um, so I think this game looks awesome.
Yeah, it
And
seems pretty cool. You try to like escape, and then I guess the last person, you take turns being the captain. Like you literally pass around this tiny little gun. Like when you become captain, like the revolver.
yeah.
And then at the end, whoever's left, like he has to choose who gets to escape with him. So he may choose humans or he may choose like the thing, which would be really bad because he kills the
Oh
world
boy.
then.
It's kind of like the end of the movie.
So I actually don't know much about the game, but it sounds really cool.
You sound like you could go door to door selling it. So
I'm ready to play. Anybody can stop by anytime. Bring
all
the
right,
game.
so
Bring the game though. I don't own it.
sequels, prequels, and more. Let's talk a little bit. We mentioned the movies, but let's give like a little bit of feedback on the movies, starting with the 1951 adaptation, which was called The Thing from Another World. It was a black and white horror science fiction film, and it was directed by Christian Nyby.
Yeah,
Nyby.
NYBY. I don't know. Nibai. Nibby.
But this was the first film adaptation of the novella.
Yep. And this is basically known as the Howard Hawks movie. Most people, as you can see from the poster there, Howard Hawks.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, it's a movie in the 50s, so it's black and white, and it's kind of got that campy feel, and the sets look, like sets, and the people act like they're reading the lines off the script and all that. And it does differ from the original novella in that they're they're on the other side of the world. They're on like the Arctic Circle, like North Pole, I guess.
Yeah.
And like the book, they find something frozen in the ice, and they destroy the UFO at the beginning accidentally, and a lot of things kind of like the book. I don't know. I like it. It's kind of hokey. There's lines like when they find it, they're like, "Holy cat! It's a perfect circle. We found it. We found a flying saucer." It's like campy lines all over the place. There's like a cheesy love story they tie in. But there's some creepy scenes. Like they kind of use a Geiger counter to see when the thing is nearby, right?
Yeah.
So it's like clicking faster and faster as the thing approaches. So there's some creepy scenes like when he breaks back in and they light him on fire. Some cool effects like that. That reminds me of like an Alien when they use, what is it, like a motion detector or what was it, to see the alien coming at him. Kind of reminded me of that. I think that could have been a takeoff. And there's some cool effects. Like I said, like they literally like burn this guy they like throw this whatever kerosene on this guy and he's like burning.
Yeah, the guy in the suit, as much as it was cheesy, was also pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's like really, after I've seen the 82 film, you're like, oh man, it's got a rubber suit. This is not good.
Right.
But I mean, my first reaction was like, there's no Abbott, no Costello. I was just hoping for that. But no, I mean, I love classic black and white movies. I've got no problem. I actually was surprised when I watched it because I thought, because of its placement in Halloween, how it was on the TV when she's babysitting, I'm like, this movie has to rule. Like, this is going to be an awesome movie. And then I watched it and it was just, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't, it was just kind of mediocre, I guess.
Yeah. It's not really scary or anything.
The cheesy lines in the love story. I've seen a lot better black and white horror movies and sci-fi movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So considering what we end up getting from John Carpenter later, I was expecting this to be like really good and then go from there. Anything else you want to mention about?
I don't know. I was going to just say, like, I touched on it a little bit before, but there's like the thing is like a plant-based creature
Yeah.
So like the scientist, he tries to take some samples and like grow. He's got these little pods that are like pulsing. He puts blood in there so they can grow. I mean, it's just like a plant that like eats,
Yeah.
people and takes them over. So I don't know. I think it's worth watching, but it's, don't expect anything that's going to blow your mind or whatever.
I knew about this movie, but I did not know about the 1972 movie, which is called Horror Express. You'd
Yep.
passed this along to me early on
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
preparation for this podcast. This one I did like. So 1951, not so much. 1972, I thought this movie was pretty awesome. I had mentioned the cast earlier of Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Telly Savalas. Great actors. The movie felt very appropriate for the time, like other movies coming out around that time. And it was kind of like a Agatha Christie style whodunit kind of murder
Yep.
mystery vibe to it. Murder on the Orient Express
Yep.
kind of vibe to it. But yeah, I like the plot. I like the setting. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like you're all isolated on this long train, going through like Siberia, right? This one takes place in another location.
Yep.
And there's even like different, all the characters are kind of different classes. Like you got the really rich guy, you got like a scientist, you got, poorer people, and you got the workers on the train. You got military involved too on the train. So it's kind of like how they all react to this monster that's going through, and he's kind of cheesy. He's like still in a suit, and the effects are pretty cheesy. They look pretty fakey, but they're at the same time they look really cool. Like they do, like when the creature attacks and kills you, like leaves you with like just white eyes, like completely white eyes. But it's not just like a white contact lens that might actually look real. It's like a makeup thing over your eye. It's like a little cap. It looks like you're in a sun tanning, bed with those little glasses. But anyway, it's pretty cool that like they kind of changed it up. That like in this one, he actually takes your all your thoughts and memories and all that, but he can also switch bodies.
Yeah.
Like if he's about to die, he can like jump into a different body and take over their thoughts and memories. So his whole thing is he's trying to like learn how to get off the planet. So the last guy that he kind of kills is like a scientist that knows about creating like steel or something. I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was really cool and gory, and there's a lot of deaths and there's a lot of like murder, and they do an autopsy and cut the guy's head off and look at his brain. I mean, it's cool scenes.
Yeah, exactly. I had never heard of it before, so it was a good find. And Christopher Lee's always awesome.
Oh yeah. The cast is great. Again, I recommend it.
It took me actually 4 tries to find one that was in English.
Really?
Yeah, I had to try all different streaming services when I was going through that. For some reason, and they all had like slightly different intros. Like there must just be like different cuts of the movie, but
Right.
It's because it's a Spanish movie, but it was made in English. So there's a dub that's dubbed over in Spanish. So it's weird. It's like the situation where you have an English movie dubbed in Spanish, subtitled in English.
Yeah. Awesome.
But it's out there. It's free. You can find it on different services. YouTube, I think I ended up watching it on YouTube after I tried a few different like of the built-in smart TV streaming services. So 1982 rolls around, John Carpenter's Thing comes out, and John Carpenter has said that The Thing is to be considered the first in his Apocalypse trilogy, it consists of The Thing in 1982, Prince of Darkness in 1987, and In the Mouth of Madness in 1994. I haven't actually seen the other 2 movies. Have you?
I have not. I feel ashamed.
I feel like they've both been on my like list of movies that I'd like to watch, but I've never gotten around to them. So I don't know if they're any good or not. But
I don't even know what they're about or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, the premise of the whole Apocalypse trilogy is that John Carpenter said that the end of the world is not going to come as you expect it's going to come. Something unforeseen is going to take us out. And obviously, you can jump to conclusions of what that means in The Thing, as it may get out of the outpost or whatever.
Alien takeover.
Yeah, pretty much.
So do you even know like the synopsis of the other two, or not at all?
No. I know that the In the Mouth of Madness is a playoff of the H.P. Lovecraft Mountains of Madness, which cool. I've read, and that book is awesome. And I think that Guillermo del Toro was going to do an adaptation of that book, and I was really looking forward to that. I think that project got canceled, but and that one stars Sam Neill.
Okay.
Who, Dr. Alan Grant, Jurassic Park, a bunch of other stuff.
Is that Donald Pleasance in Prince of Darkness? I can't really tell.
Yeah, I can't either.
I know he was in some Carpenter movies.
Yeah, Halloween as Dr. Loomis. So after 82, we have The Thing that came out in 2011, which is a science fiction horror film directed by Matthias van Helgingen Jr., written by Eric Heiser and starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Joel Edgerton, who is known as Owen Lars, which is Uncle Owen from Star Wars.
Okay.
He plays the young Uncle Owen. In episodes 2 and 3. I know those are your favorite movies.
I watch those a lot. Yeah, those are good.
Ulrich Thompson, Adewale, I'm gonna butcher this name, Akinoue Abaje, Mr. Echo from Lost, man.
Yep. Yeah, he is great. Yep.
He was in Game of Thrones.
I love that actor. Yeah.
But this movie is a direct.
Oh wait, you forgot one.
Who? What?
Christopher Hevu.
Tell me more.
He played Jonas, and he's also from. Or did you already mention him from Game of Thrones?
No. Who? Tell me more.
He's also a baseball player. We yelled Game of Thrones.
Oh, no, yeah. He's the guy. Yeah.
I can't think of his name on Game of Thrones right now. It's been so long since I watched that.
Yeah, we need Crystal to comment on this.
The red-haired.
Yep, he's the Wyndham Wizard.
Yeah, the Wyndham Wizard. We know all of his other aliases. He's one of the wildlings.
Yeah, I don't know how that didn't end up on my list. I should have said starring.
I know, yeah. Christopher Hevu.
Oh. Yeah, the cast of this movie was good. The movie was a direct prequel to the 1982 film. And by direct, I mean it literally bleeds into the 1982 film, which I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, we could talk about that in a little bit, but I didn't watch this movie until preparation for this. I had heard it was good, but when they mess with your classics, it's sometimes hard to make time if it doesn't do incredibly well at the box office. I'm not one of those anti-reboot remake people. I liked Rob Zombie's Halloween. I thought those movies were good. I'm okay with a lot of this stuff. So I wasn't like down on this movie. It was good. It wasn't great. I thought
it was okay, but it's kind of like if they made a 4th Indiana Jones or something. Like, what would that be like?
I can't even imagine.
So I don't know. I felt like it kind of rehashed like too many plot points and like pacing and stuff like from the 1982 one. I don't know. There was a couple new twists that were cool, like how it couldn't assimilate like jewelry or fillings in teeth. And those things were kind of like interesting to see that stuff fall out of the bodies or whatever.
Yeah, the fillings was cool. The earring situation.
Yeah.
I thought that when they were doing the tooth check, it was very similar to the blood check, the blood test.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
But I still found that like gripping. Like I was like, oh my God, what are they, and then the guy's like, I floss and brush my teeth. Like, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, what does that mean? Is he or not? So then you have like the maybe pile of people, and the I mean, the special effects obviously was the biggest hang up for me. I heard that this movie was actually originally done completely with practical effects, and that
Yep.
there were even articles about this was the return to practical effects, and they were going to do this right.
That would have been a good time to do it.
And then allegedly that the studio said it looked too not modern enough, so they replaced all the practical effects they shot with ridiculously looking bad CGI.
Yep. Just too obvious, It's got to be. You got to not notice when something's CGI. You know what I
When the
mean?
guy's head opens up, it just felt like they were let's crank it up to 11. It's going to be as gross as possible and as extreme as possible.
No, I'd rather see a mask like rip open, and like,
Yeah, less
or
is
or
more.
melt or something, like, I don't know.
Yeah, the special effects kind of put a damper. I think they also showed just a little too much, like when they went on the ship, the alien ship. That wasn't
Yeah.
needed.
No, I don't want to see
The
that.
movie could have ended before that scene. Like they could have wrapped it up, but instead they decide to like show a little bit too much. It's like, oh well, we have computers, so we can show more, and it's like, nah, maybe you shouldn't do
Yeah.
that.
And they try to make it more like an action movie and not like a tense like thriller movie.
Yeah, you've got to assume. Like, I would hope nobody would ever watch this before
Yeah. Yeah,
John
really.
Carpenter's The Thing, but this movie is treated like you already know everything. Like you already know all about the thing and the assimilation and all that. Whereas the previous movie, uh, you're uncovering things in real time with the characters in the movie.
Yep. Yeah, and like I don't really even remember this movie coming out, like because I'm a fan of the '82 version, and like you'd think that I would be all over this when it came out, but I mean, obviously, it must not have done very well.
I think that, yeah, yeah, just and then it was called The Thing. They didn't even change the name.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is like a common that's a pretty common thing to do, when they finally come out with Gremlins 3, it'll probably be just called Gremlins. They're going to rename
yeah.
it the same thing again, and then it will be distinguished by the year, like we've had to do this whole podcast. But
Yep.
they
And
did
they
that
even
with
used like that image, like from the original poster right there. It's pretty much the same guy in the
Yeah,
hood with
yeah,
his
it's like Bennings.
hands. Yeah,
The fingers are like Bennings, I should
really,
say.
it is. Yeah,
um so I think that's enough talking about that movie.
I
It's
agree.
worth a watch, I would say. If you've watched 1982 enough times, just like take a gander at this, have an opinion. It's not unbearable, It's worth
Yeah,
checking out. And I
yeah.
do.
I was gonna say I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I think she did a good job, and she was pretty
Yeah,
cool. She's fun to watch, whatever.
it might have been a little forced the way that they connected the two movies together, but it also has that like aha moment of like, oh, okay, now we're and they even put the score from 1982 at the end of the
Yeah,
movie.
it just
So
felt clipped on at the end, though. Let's just put the helicopter chasing the dog at the end, and like, boom, that's just right at the end.
that's so when you go to this movie with your friend and you've seen the original and they haven't, that part's just for you.
Yeah.
So Blumhouse Productions and John Carpenter are, I guess they're developing a new version of the 1982 movie. So um, it's still in the early stages. COVID has kind of slowed everything down. I think they announced this in early 2020 or 2019 that they were going to put something together.
Right.
I assume that because Carpenter's involved, it'll be similar to his involvement with like Halloween, how they have, you know, rebooted with sequels, not remade the movie. Um,
Hmm.
and I think there's a lot of creative ways that they could do a sequel. You know, make it
Yeah, for sure.
make it 40 years later. Like that's what it will literally be next year. It will be 40 years.
Yeah, and wasn't this like they found like an extended manuscript from the original author with like more details to the story, and that was kind of their excuse to like try to cut another movie out of that and like extend the idea. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've heard that. I mean, Blumhouse has been doing great movies, like, and they're doing the new Universal monster movies, like, kind of on accident. They did the Invisible Man movie, and it went so well that now Universal's ditching their whole Dark Universe plan that they had with Tom Cruise,
Hmm.
and
I
they're
never
gonna
haven't
have
heard about that.
they're gonna have Blumhouse do that. So, like, I think Tom Cruise did that Mummy movie, The Mummy, like
Oh
a new
yeah,
one. And
yeah,
it was a total flop. They did some Dracula movie. It was a total flop. Um, but I'm pretty sure it's Blumhouse did The Invisible Man, and it was very successful. It was set in modern times.
oh yeah. I haven't seen that, but I was thinking about I should probably check that out.
It's very good. Yeah, it's very good.
So, what are the
So
chances that we can get Kurt Russell and old boy Keith David like to kind of do another one?
it's possible.
I mean, is that realistic that they could have escaped being frozen to death?
I would rather that they're dead. Just from a standpoint of like, I think that movie, you put a bow on it at the end and they die and that's it.
Yeah,
But if you're going to do a sequel, how does the thing get out of Antarctica? I mean, somebody's got to come clean up the outposts. So there's any which way that could happen. I was I was thinking it would be kind of cool if maybe somehow the thing had made its way to like South America.
right.
So now you have a different setting. Maybe it's some sort of tie-in to the locals in that area and stuff like that. But there's a lot of opportunity in the jungle, assimilating creatures,
Yep.
nastiness.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, at the very end of the book, they're going to where they've been keeping Blair. Kind of like the movie. They secluded him, and he's been working on a spaceship. He's actually been working on an anti-gravity machine and all that. But they see they see a seagull coming down,
Oh yeah,
and so they end up like shooting at it with their guns and stuff and getting it out of there because they're worried about that very thing, that it could transfer the thing to the mainland. So I mean, that's an option that could happen. Some sort of animal or maybe a small penguin
yo, the
swam his way.
bird is a great idea. The other great idea there is the bird. It passes it along to a fish.
There you go.
Like, this is to me it sounds very like Michael Crichton writing. Like,
Yeah, no, I can
he's
see that
very
as the credits are rolling in the intro to the movie, you're seeing these animals passing along, one to another, and they finally get to
commercial fisherman kind of
yep,
situation, but like maybe like a lower level commercial fisherman off of the coast of South America brings
yep.
it to the village.
All of a
Kind
sudden,
of
Argentina, yep, they're up there.
I don't want is I don't want Predator 2. I don't want it to be in LA. I don't want like
No, we don't need an urban environment. No.
no, I don't want it to be. I would like it to be. You keep it in an atmosphere, kind of like Antarctica, where it feels more timeless. You can't
Yeah.
really tell if that's 1992, 1982, 1962.
Yep. Even if it
But
ended up on like a big, a big ship, a ship
that's
out at sea,
great.
like a container type of
Yep.
ship.
These
That'd be,
all also sound like X-Files episodes.
yeah. But there, though, you have the isolation of being this massive ship. There's still a lot of room to create different scenes, but it's still you're not getting back to like you said, a city setting.
You could also have the ship. It's like a fisherman. It's a fisher ship. Whatever. Ship runs ashore. Everyone's dead. What
Or are they?
happened? There's one survivor, maybe.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
don't know.
All right.
There's I think that we should get the job to
Yeah.
write
Do you still have Carpenter's number on your phone there?
yeah, let me pull
Give him
that
a
up real quick
give him a
and
buzz there.
oh but I'm here for it. I prefer the sequels that continue as opposed to some weird rewriting of the history, like revisionist history. Like
Yeah.
I liked the new John Carpenter Halloween. I think it's great. It was awesome. Um, I wouldn't be mad if Kurt Russell comes back as some grizzled old man or something, or
Yeah. What if he
you
just
know,
came back for like a cameo? He was just kind of in the background, but he wasn't actually McCready.
you know that they're waiting to do like the Predator movie where they bring back Dutch and Arnold comes out of
Oh, for
retirement
sure.
and has to fly down to like fight
Yeah.
old predators. So
Oh.
we're nearing the end here. So what sets apart 1982's movie? Why is it such a timeless classic? Why do you love it?
I think, you know, like I always say for these things, concept and execution, you know, great idea. And then you did the best you could do with that idea to portray the events,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think the concept is that paranoia versus trust, you know, like are you scared or do you believe in, you know, this person or this thing is a real thing?
yeah.
And I think that goes to it breaks down into like three different partitions from that. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. All right.
All right, we're here for you.
The first part being trusting science and research. I think the 50s movie came out right after World War II, you know, where we kind of started to get into like the atomic bomb and like nuclear weapons and that sort of thing. So there was kind of like almost a fear of science.
Sure.
And I think, you know, it goes along with like, if you found something out, you know, frozen, like, should you actually pursue, you know, researching that? And like, or is there a danger in like going too far with science? I think that's sort of part one. Part two would be the horror of something invading your body, like getting inside you. I think the 80s version kind of, if you remember, that was kind of like when AIDS was starting to be kind of a big
Yep.
problem,
Yep.
a very scary thing that like you really thought you were going to die for sure if you got that. So, you know, it kind of ties to like real world applications of this fear of, you know, or getting a virus. I mean, talk about like current days, like COVID. I mean, it's a scary time and you just don't know. It is almost like that. Like you don't know who's infected, you know, it's like,
Yeah, it's like going to the grocery store and you're like, I do they have it?
yeah, yeah, it's exactly, you don't know. Yeah. Does your friend have it? Does your loved one have it? You know, like it's pretty wild. Um, and then this kind of ties a little bit into that, but the fear of like someone not being what they appear to be, you know, so it could
Yeah.
be again, going back to like the 80s when our favorite movie was made, there was kind of a fear of Russians and Russian spies and that sort of thing. Just, you know, the communist threat and that. And I suppose in the 50s too. And also now, like online, you kind of wonder about like people being real are, you know, what's real, what's fake online.
Are we
Just, you know,
real?
just
Is this
doubting,
real?
you know, just doubting things in general, like information you get online or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of the three parts of that. And then obviously under execution, we already talked about like practical effects. I mean, these are things that keep us coming back to this movie. Just looking at the beautiful sculptures and the, you know, the blood and the gore that was actually right there in front of the actors. All right. It wasn't a green screen.
Yeah.
And shooting on location, actually immersing yourself in the role in the atmosphere of the movie. I think, you know, I think all of that is what to me makes this movie something that's a classic.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think it's timeless. Um, I think, and that's, I mean, that goes like you're just talking about AIDS and you're talking about coronavirus. Like the world changes, but this much as the world changes, it doesn't change. Before it was the Soviets, and now it's the information age, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And it's, yeah. And who do we trust, I mean, going with this COVID thing, like there's so much information out there, but who do you believe? It's like scientists or someone that posted a headline that's misleading, I don't know.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
it's, and also like, do you get the vaccination or, it's not tested enough. Like, I don't know what's going to do to my body. My chest might burst open with jaws.
I
Who
think
knows?
that, I mean, for me, the reasons that why this is such a masterpiece is the sum of all of the parts that make up this movie. So you can start with the cinematography by Dean Cundey. Like the cinematography, the type of film they shot on, the colors, the color
Right.
usage, the type of film they use is why you have the cool like lens flare effects that come across. There's like these little things that you might not think about, especially now when we shoot a lot on digital. The music, Ennio Morricone, like his music in this film, beyond this film, but like mostly like I'm just talking about like that bass line, the treatments, the orchestral parts. The music to me is very reminiscent of when I used to play the game Doom, the original versions of Doom, Doom 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like that eerie thumping, you don't know what's around the next corner. It builds the suspense.
Mm-hmm.
The cast is just stellar. Like, what a great bunch of people to be thrown in a movie, and you got no complaints out of me out of any cast members
No.
featured. Like it just all together, they work so well together. And that's because of the brilliance and the mastermind that is John Carpenter, who brought all those guys together, who kind of uh, had them live together, work together, had challenges together, all of that. And then, we had a whole segment about it. The last thing that I'll say again is just the special effects. Like, you can't have a great movie that has shoddy special effects because then the movie's going to suck and we're not going to be sitting here for over 2 hours talking about it. On the flip side, we've also seen very great special effects with zero plot.
Right.
So you have this great writing and this great directing and this great acting, and then it's the glue that holds it all together is this believable scenario brought to us by a 22-year-old
Yeah.
Rob Bottin, who lived at Universal Studios for I think it was like a year and 6 weeks. He lived at the studio. He was sleeping in the set. So they
Yeah.
would get there and they'd be like, "Where's Rob?" And they'd be like, "Oh, he's under the
Yeah.
work table." Like,
Talk about immersing yourself or, method acting. This was like method, like creation of being part of the story, right? When you're sleeping next to like he probably slept like right next to like Split Face, that thing that was like two faces melting together.
it makes me think of some situations you and I have been in, building global shop
Right.
booths, shopper marketing booths, 15-foot slot machines, like
Exactly. Yeah.
where you just live for it, and you're living for it not because you want to serve your bosses. You're living for it because of this thing that you will have when you're all done, which is something no one can ever take away from you. It's something you put on your shelf of your life. Um, Rob Bottin's gone on and done a lot of other things. Dean
Right.
Cundey's gone on and done a bunch of other things. Obviously, Carpenter is super successful. But this movie warrants us doing this podcast because it's a legendary masterpiece of sci-fi and horror that's still relevant.
Yeah. I mean, you can watch interviews and we should probably mention, what was the name of the YouTube video we watched? The making
Oh,
of
The Shape of Terror?
Terror. No, Terror Takes Shape.
Terror Takes Shape.
I
It's
have it
like an
written
hour and
down
a
here.
half, I think. Uh, Great documentary. I don't know if you can even call it documentary. It's more of just a series of interviews.
It's all interviews, cast and creators. It's called The Thing: Terror Takes Shape, and it's on YouTube. But what I was going to say is, Rob Bottin on there, you can just tell how much fun he had making the movie, and how excited he was to just be thrown into it and actually live there. And even though he was exhausted like every day, like he was just living a life of joy, like making this movie. And it just comes through in the interviews. Yeah, I definitely think anyone that's interested in that stuff, check that video out. It's like an hour and a half long.
Yeah, I watched it twice.
It's pretty informative and it's really cool to.
I watched it twice. I enjoyed it so much. Like there's a lot of details there, a lot of behind the scenes, little footage and photos and stuff. In a day where we don't actually own a DVD or Blu-ray because everything's streaming.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool to be able to, utilize YouTube to get some really in-depth information. It's time for our final segment of the podcast, The Firing Squad. In this segment, I will be asking our guests 10 quick-fire questions. Nate hasn't seen this list of questions prior to me asking them, so his answers should be quick and simple with no explanation needed.
I'm scared.
Nathan, are you ready?
I will try my best.
Nate, do you want to come back or not? We need better than your best.
We'll see. I guess we'll see what kind of questions I get. Hopefully it's like, what's your favorite color? Blue.
You're like, I don't know.
Yellow.
Wrong answer. Yeah, a little Monty Python there.
Yeah.
All right, number 1. What was the last live concert you attended?
Oh, wow. See, how am I supposed to remember that?
Yeah, I don't really know what mine was.
I don't even remember. That was like 2019.
I think it might have been Kiss.
It could have been, I think in 2019, I went to that Wilco Solid Sound Festival.
Oh, yeah.
That could have been one of my last ones.
Where was that? Massachusetts?
Yeah, that was up. I visited you while I was up there. Remember that?
I was just thinking about that when we got pizza down on Thayer Street.
Yeah. So that could have been one of my last would be Wilco. Yeah.
All right, cool. That might be your last concert ever.
It could be. It could be.
I hope you're happy. Number 2, greatest video game console of all time.
That's got to be the NES. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the original Nintendo.
The little rectangle.
8-bit.
Yeah.
2.125 pixels.
Yeah. Something like that.
Number 3, DC or Marvel?
Well, I love Batman, but I guess I'd say Marvel overall.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Other than Batman. I mean, can we just bring Batman into Marvel?
We've been trying to make the trade for years. The negotiations are ongoing.
We can trade what would we trade for? We could trade Wanda for Batman.
Oh, that woman?
That woman superhero?
Number 4, favorite pizza, but the sub question is restaurant and toppings. So where do you like to get pizza from and which one?
Oh, that's easy. Milwaukee has a place called, what is it called? It's called
Tozino's.
Tozino's, yeah.
Tailgater. Sorry, I'll let you answer.
No, why can't I remember the name of it? It's called Transfer.
Transfer.
And it's got a pizza called the Paisano. It's got like sausage and like shaven cheese on it, and it's got like a pesto sauce. It's super good. It's my favorite pizza.
Did you find good pizza in Vero yet?
Not really. No, Florida doesn't really have good pizza. I mean, you get a lot that's like New York style,
Yeah.
big slabs and that stuff, but it's not really too great.
Number 5, Skid Row without Sebastian Bach or Sebastian Bach solo.
Well, I've
This is
seen
more like
Sebastian.
attending. Yeah, attending.
I've seen Sebastian solo, and it was pretty awesome. But I think it would be pretty cool to see Skid Row too. I don't know. It's a tough one.
They got ZP singing for him
I'd
now
love
from
to see
Dragon
Snake and Scotty up there. Yeah. So
Wish that
I'm supposed to have tickets to see Sebastian down here. Hopefully this year.
Yeah, we were gonna see him at Mohegan Sun, and then it got canceled. Actually, at Mohegan Sun, they have a stage in the middle of the casino, like it's open air.
Cool.
So like it's a circle, and there's a stage with like standing room, and they hold free concerts like year round. But they have like Sebastian Bach just plays a free concert on like a Wednesday night, and it's first come first serve.
Well, you can't beat that then. Get
And then
a blanket out there.
You could be like on your slot machine on your one arm bandit, and there's Skid Row.
Yeah.
There's monkey business is being performed right next to you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, down here the place is sort of like a beach bar. So there's like sand and like water, and then like a stage. Yeah, so that'd be pretty sweet.
Number 6, favorite thing you are currently streaming or binging that would be unexpected to our listeners.
Oh boy.
So, I don't really believe in like the guilty pleasure thing, because if you like it, you like it.
Yeah.
But what are you watching that's kind of like, really, Nate?
I don't know. Oh, I know. We've been watching. Well, there's a couple things. We've been lately. I don't know how I feel about this show, but it's the new Nancy Drew show. That's like a CW show. It's like all these like attractive people, like 20-year-olds, solving crimes. So like that's, I don't know, it's not great or anything. But the other one that was pretty funny was a show called Tattoo Fixers, and it's like a British show. So
All right.
I don't know, maybe I'll see you on there sometime.
Yeah.
If you want to get a cover up, I want to cover up those Packer tattoos sometime. I don't know, after this year.
All right, very good. You've done well so far.
All right, how many do we have left? Oh my God!
Just to give you a little bit of encouragement, this is number 7 of 10.
Jeez.
So we're making it. Number 7, your favorite music venue.
Oh boy. Favorite music venue, like ever in my life that I've been to?
Like anywhere that you've been.
I don't know. Summerfest, maybe? I don't know. They have
pretty good.
It's a fun place, but the sound is not great.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, the Pabst Theater or Riverside Theater, Milwaukee, both good.
All right.
Shank Hall. Shank Hall.
Oh yeah, Shank Hall's cool. Number 8, Freddie or Jason?
I'm gonna say Freddie. He's got a cool melty face as opposed to just a mask.
You're still thinking about pizza, aren't you?
Yep. His face looks pretty good right about now. I haven't eaten in a while.
Number 9, your favorite Masters of the Universe character.
Oh boy. Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I gotta say Merman.
I figured you might say Seaman or Ram Man.
Ram. Well, I know you like Adam.
Prince Adam. Actually, I saw. That's weird that you bring that up. I saw an article today that Prince Adam was originally supposed to be a separate character from He-Man, not like the same character.
Twin brother, maybe.
Take off this hat, just golden locks.
Some pink leotards.
Been cultivating that with a pink vest. All right, final question. What concert are you most looking forward to seeing post-pandemic? This doesn't have to be something that's already scheduled. Like, it could be something that will eventually happen. So you're excited to go see it. Spice Girls or
Well,
something.
I'm pretty excited to go see Roger Waters.
Me too.
Mainly because I'm going with you.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
kind of you.
And there's a chance
Did you watch?
David Gilmour might hop up.
We need that reunion, bro. We need that reunion.
Yeah, if we get that, I'm gonna probably I'm gonna follow them on tour. But we also have GNR we're supposed to, I think, check out. So that would be great to see them again.
What do you think the likelihood is that's happening on July 10th?
I don't know. Well, no, isn't it part of Summerfest still or no?
I think it's at the American Family Amphitheater, but I'm assuming that it's independent from the Summerfest event because it's a global tour
Yeah, but originally it was part of Summerfest.
during Summerfest.
And that got moved to September now, so it could happen in September. We'll see.
It could. I have a feeling Axl's going to cancel this year, and they're going to over it one more time. I mean, it took how long for them to reunite?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's not like they need the money.
Right.
All right, folks. Before we get out of here, make sure you're checking out collectanddestroy.com. That's collectxdestroy.com. Also the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also shop.collectanddestroy.com, which is the official web store. You can buy all your fun toys and action figures and Nate quarter scale
Life
Nate
size.
dolls.
Life size, just certain parts of my body though, not my whole body.
We actually have a promo we're running right now. So if you enter podcast 15, again, say it with me, podcast 15, you save 15% instantly on all purchases at the Collect and Destroy store. So check it out. Enter podcast 15. Remember, this episode was streamed live on YouTube. And so it'll be on YouTube. You can stream it from now and forever. Hit that subscribe button. And then the audio version will be available on all major podcast platforms starting on Monday. So Spotify, Apple Podcast app, Overcast, Anchor, Pocket Casts, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find Nate's nice, beautiful voice.
Thank
Nate,
you.
sincerely, thank you very much for being a part of this episode.
Yeah, it's been great, man. I love picking apart movies and albums. I always like seeing the behind the scenes and doing all the research. A lot of fun.
Definitely. Make sure you join us for our next episode where we will be discussing the 1994 heavy metal comedy classic Airheads with our buddy Ken Hoffman, starring Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler, chock full of one-liners and classic music. So on that note, thank you and good night.